Teachers, hi! My name is Sarah Smith. Welcome to the Lead to Teach channel and welcome to session 1, the Crystal Clear Classroom, where we're going to talk about, spoiler, clear expectations. But before we jump into today's session, I want to just tell you what this channel is so you have an idea if it's relevant for you. So Lead to Teach is intended to be training for teachers in terms of both classroom management and instruction, but starting with classroom management. The reason I say that this channel is K2 specific and K6 relevant is because all of my training, all of my experience, all of my research has been in kinder, first, and second grade. But I've been told by instructional coaches and upper grade teachers with whom I've worked that the behavioral principles we will talk about herein are K6 relevant, meaning it doesn't matter if you teach kindergarten or third grade or sixth grade, the behavioral principles hold true. I've been told the only thing that changes is your tone. So where you might say to a group of first graders, super job following directions the first time. Thank you so much. You might change your tone with a group of fifth graders to say, fifth graders, super job following directions the first time. Thank you so much. So the principles are the same, the tone changes, if that makes sense. Okay. So there are videos here on YouTube, obviously, but then I also have resources on my website, which is leadtoteach.com. When I say resources, I mean curriculum. The curriculum is K2 specific. Sorry, upper grade teachers. There are posters. There is a classroom rules poster that would be relevant for all grades. And then the piece that I think is probably the most important and is going to be the most overlooked are the guided notes. Guided notes that you can print for free that accompany all of the sessions so that you can fill out the information as we go through it and just have something to refer back to later. And I did that just because I always appreciate having that. If I go to a training, a conference, a seminar, I appreciate having something to refer back to later. So those are available for free if you are interested. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about who I am. I am a former teacher. I taught first grade for 10 years, and I absolutely loved 9 of those years. I'll tell you more about the year I didn't love in just a little bit. But I am a former teacher. Sometime during that 10-year period, I went back to school and I did my graduate program in a field called Applied Behavior Analysis, which means working with diagnosing and intervening on problem behavior or even just behavior in general of kids. So I am a certified behavior analyst, and I am also an instructional coach. After I graduated from my program, I left my classroom and started visiting other teachers' classrooms in grades K1, 2 to help them with classroom management and instruction. I'm a proud mom. I have a teenage daughter, Isabel. You'll hear about her through a lot of these sessions, I'm sure. I did have a friend once who said to me, I just don't love Gilmore Girls, like the TV show. And I was like, what? Why? And she said, because it just feels so unrealistic to me. And you guys, honestly, I died a little bit inside. I was like, I feel like that is my life on screen. Like a mom and her teenage daughter who are just best friends. Like, yeah, that absolutely describes our relationship and our life. So I'm a proud mama, and I'm also an avid reader. I love to read, especially fictional series. If it's been a bandwagon series, I've probably read it. Hunger Games, Harry Potter, Fable Haven, you name it, I've probably read it. But I also try to stay really current in the behavioral and educational research so that hopefully you don't have to, right? I can cite that research without you having to dig for it yourself. Okay, so that being said, I want to jump today into the why behind setting clear expectations in your classroom. Ready? Let's just jump right in. First session. Here's what Randy Sprick has said. And Randy Sprick, in case you don't know, is the former director of the Safe and Civil Schools company, the founder actually. He's done so much educational and behavioral research. He's really somebody I respect and admire tremendously. Here's what he has said, is that teaching behavioral expectations is, ready for this, as important as teaching academic subjects. And any of these words in red will be words that you can fill in on your guided notes. So this would be the first one. Teaching behavioral expectations is as important as teaching academic subjects. We should give just as much weight to teaching our behavioral expectations as we do teaching the academic content. And why would that be the case? Why would you want to set behavioral expectations? I'm going to say the first reason is for your sake as the teacher. This is a picture of me with my first group of first graders. And I remember that year was just so hard. It was so difficult that I went to school every morning with a pit the size of Texas in my stomach. I just had such a hard time arriving and showing up at school every day. And I blamed a lot of it on the kids because I had such a difficult group dynamic. I had 27 kiddos that year. I had kids with ADD and ADHD. I had kids who were speech and resource qualified. I had kids who spoke English as a second and even a third language. I had one little gal with oppositional defiant disorder. I had a little boy with severe autism. It was really easy for me to say, like, wow, the dynamic of this group just makes success impossible. And it was really, really difficult for me to continue showing up every day. And in fact, this is a statistic you may have heard, but 42% of teachers leave the field of education within the first 5 years of teaching because of classroom management problems. So why set behavioral expectations? I would say for your sake as a teacher. But why else? For their sake, right? My classroom that first year was so noisy. It was so off task. It was so chaotic that I still to this day feel so sorry for every single one of these kiddos. I still wish I could individually apologize to every single one of them and say, I'm so sorry, I didn't know what I was doing. That was me, not you. Even though it was a difficult dynamic, there were a lot of mistakes I was making that, had I not made, would have resulted in a different outcome that year. And instead what happened is a third of my class didn't hit benchmark in reading, learning to read by the end of the year. They didn't learn math, they didn't learn handwriting, they didn't learn writing. It was just a rockin' nightmare. Here's what the research tells us. I will try to cite research that's really relevant, that's really powerful, again, so you don't have to comb through it, but here's what the research tells us about expectations, is that students in classrooms where behavior is poorly managed receive less academic instruction. Okay, so if the expectations are not really clear and the classroom is poorly managed, they receive less academic instruction and are more likely to have long-term negative academic, behavioral, and social outcomes than students in well-managed classrooms, which is another way of saying that the kiddos my first year probably struggled throughout the rest of their school career because of the impact of how awful that first year in first grade was for them. So again, sorry to any of you who who may see this. Okay, here's another piece of research from George Sagai. I absolutely love this. He has said that establishing, teaching, and reinforcing rules and expectations is one of the hallmarks of an effective classroom. And I love that he used the word hallmark because a hallmark is a distinguishing feature. It's something that sets one thing apart from another thing. So what he's saying is, in highly effective classrooms, one thing that sets those highly effective classrooms apart from moderately or minimally effective classrooms is how well the teacher establishes, teaches, and reinforces the classroom rules and expectations. So let's be really clear, if you don't mind, about what an expectation is. An expectation is defined as the specific standard of behavior desired in a given task or setting. So much like adult drivers, we know that we're always supposed to drive safely and responsibly, right? But how fast I go in a school zone is going to be different than how fast I go in a residential or commercial zone compared to how fast I go on a freeway or a highway. So it's being specific about what's expected for that given task or setting. So if you don't mind, I want to jump now to the how. We know why behavioral expectations are really important because they're going to distinguish our classroom from other classrooms in terms of effectiveness, but then how do you achieve that? First things first, you're not going to be surprised to hear you would want to establish and teach classroom rules, right? You want to let the students know these are the major behaviors that are expected in this classroom. So here's what not only Randy Sprick, but lots of other researchers have recommended in terms of what makes good classroom rules. First one would be follow directions the first time. I don't have to tell you 2 times, 5 times, 10 times. I say it and you do it. Next rule would be raise your hand to speak. If you have a comment or a question, You solicit appropriately for that attention. You take care of property. We're not engaging in destruction of either individual property or class or school property. And fourth rule that's recommended in the research really commonly is show respect to others. Treat others with kindness and with compassion. So we will look at each of these more closely in a little bit. And there's the poster in case you want to know where we're heading and what it looks like. But first things really first, here's what I've learned, is that before you even teach them the rules, it's really, really, really important to teach your kids how to sit during instruction. I made this mistake my first year where I thought, oh, it'll be so fun for the kids to meet the teacher and I'm going to call them over to the rug and I'm going to let them just get to know me and I'm going to talk to them and begin to build that relationship. And no. That was a terrible idea because they didn't know how to sit while I was speaking with them and talking to them. And I had disaster on my hands from minute one that first day of school. So first things really first, you want to teach your kids how to sit during instruction. Here's the research, is that kids who sit as though they're paying attention during instruction actually pay better attention during instruction. Are you surprised? Probably not. Specifically, kids who are taught to sit as though they're paying attention perform better on assessments. They achieve higher scores on assessments. They retain their skills longer, so not just for that unit or for the sake of that assessment, but throughout that year and in subsequent years as well. And they exhibit less disruptions, less off-task behavior than kids who are allowed to sit however they'd like to sit during instruction. So the question I'm going to ask is, how do you teach this and any expectation? If I want to teach my kids how to sit during instruction, if that is the very first thing I should do in setting classroom expectations, how do I do that? There's going to be two phases, the training phase and then the maintenance phase. We'll only talk about the training phase today, but this is what training would look like for any expectation you wanted to teach, but we're going to look at it within the framework of teaching kids how to sit. Okay, so the first thing you would want to do is tell students the task. Tell them what it is you're going to be doing. So I might say something like, okay, everyone, we're going to learn something today called power position. And power position is just a way of telling kids how to sit during instruction. And then I'm going to explain how the behavior looks and how the behavior sounds. In other words, what are they supposed to do with their body and what are they supposed to do with their mouth? If I'm being clear, I should be attending to both of those components. So I might say something like, when I ask you to get into power position, it means that you'll scoot your chair up. It means that you'll put your arms on top of your desk and your eyes will be on me and your mouth will be closed. And I'm explaining to them that's what power position looks and sounds like. The next step then would be that you want to model the behavior. Let me show you what this looks and sounds like. Watch me. I'm going to sit here in this desk up front where everybody can see me, and I'm going to scoot my chair in. I'm going to put my hands on top of my desk. I'm looking straight forward, and my mouth is closed. Watch. That's what power position looks like. After we've modeled the behavior, this step would be really, really, really important, and that's that you want to practice the behavior with the kids. So I might say, okay, everyone, guess what? We're going to try this together. And what I'm going to watch for are kids who remember how it looks and sounds to be in power position. Who remembers how to scoot up, arms on top, eyes on me, mouth closed. Let's practice this. And then as you practice, you're going to offer feedback. You're either going to praise how well they're meeting the target, or you're going to correct and say, oh, we still need to work on this piece. So affirmative, yep, that was great following directions, or uh-oh, no, we're going to try this part again because I expect everybody's mouths to be closed. We're not even whispering if we're sitting in power position. Oh, wouldn't it be so nice if there were an acronym to help us remember this? And maybe you already noticed there is, and it's the acronym TEMPO, right? I'm going to tell the task, explain how it looks and sounds, model the behavior, practice the behavior with the students, and offer them feedback as they practice. So TEMPO is an acronym that I really like to use just because it makes it easier for me to keep track of the steps. But if you're reading the research, in the research it is called behavioral skills training, just so you know, it is a real evidence-based practice, but they won't call it TEMPO in the research. Okay, so here's a video of me teaching power position to a group of first graders on the first day of school. And what I'm hoping you can notice is just how important it is for students to learn to attend before any other expectations are taught. So you'll notice me telling them the task and explaining how it looks and sounds. Guess what? I totally skipped modeling the behavior. Should I have modeled it? Yeah, absolutely, but whatever, I just skipped it. Sorry. Then I'm going to practice with the students and offer them feedback. So would you watch this first day of first grade, kids learning how to sit in power position? In first grade, you have to know something that's called power position. Will you say power position? Power position. Power position means you're sitting ready to learn. It means your chair is scooted up to your desk. Yes, good. It means your hands are on top of your desk, just like that. And it means your eyeballs are right here on me. Wow. And even if I move over here, you're watching. Or even if I move in the middle, good watching. Even if I go down, wow, good watching. Okay, I wasn't going to tell you this yet, but I think I better tell you right now, because everybody's doing it. In my class, if you follow my directions the first time, if you do what I ask you to the first time I ask you to do it, then I come over to my class pizza and I add a pepperoni. Bloop. And I have another pizza that's back there on that board. Point for me if you can see where the other pizza is. Ooh, good pointing. Okay, turn back around. Whoa, that was fast turning around. If you fill up that pizza and this pizza with all the pepperonis, then we get to have a pizza party. And whenever we do pizza party, I like to go, pizza party! Can you do it? Pizza party! Good job. But to earn the pepperonis, you have to follow my directions. And the reason I added one is because everybody was already doing that with power position. Okay, let's practice what power position does not look like. I want you to scoot your chair out just a little bit. Maybe put your hands down by your side and maybe lay your head on your desk or just look kind of sloppy and don't watch the teacher. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, when I say power position, I'm going to see who remembers what that looks like. First graders, I need you in power position. Jacob, super fast. Tessa, super fast. Let me see, are your chairs scooted in? And are your hands on top of your desk? And are your mouths closed? Finn, I love it. Gabe, super job. Hands are on top of your desk. Good following directions. Let me check your mouths. Mouths are closed. Awesome. I think I better add another pepperoni. Okay, so after teachers watch that video, a question they commonly ask is, do you usually have to do a non-practice like you did in that video? And the answer is no, absolutely not. A non-practice is usually not necessary. In fact, I think I only ever do it for power position, to practice if we're not sitting in power position, what it looks like to quickly get there. So no, non-practice is not usually necessary. Okay, so let's assume that kids know how to sit. They know how to act as though they're attending to instruction so that they will actually attend to instruction. Now they're ready to be taught the rules. Now you're ready to do rules instruction. So the first rule that's very, very, very often recommended in the research is to teach kids to follow directions the first time, so that I don't have to tell you multiple times before I have compliance. So I'm just hoping you can think about, what would that include? If your kids were really skilled at following directions the first time, what would they be able to do the first time you said it? And of course you can pause and reflect on this on your own and jot down your own ideas, but here are some that I came up with. If my kids could follow directions the first time, I could say line up quietly, and they would line up quietly. I could say walk to the rug and they would walk, not run. I could say sit in power position And they would know how to sit up and sit as though they're attending instead of laying down on desks or flopping out of seats, which I've seen. They would go down the slide versus up the slide. If my kids were good at following my directions the first time, it would mean I could tell them to clean up the self-start and they would do it right away. I could ask them to line up quickly from recess and they would get lined up quickly so that we could go back inside for instruction. I could tell them to pull out their whiteboard quietly. They would know how to do that. I could tell them to keep their hands to themselves in the hall and they would keep their hands to themselves. They wouldn't touch the walls or neighbors, peers around them. So my point in doing this is just to say, I hope you recognize what a valuable umbrella rule this would be to train. So I want to show you a video. This is the same class, same group of first graders, and I'm hoping you can just jot notes about how explicitly this rule is taught. And guess what? I skipped the model part again. Dang it. I did tell them the task. I did explain how it looks and sounds, but I skipped modeling and just went straight to practicing and offering feedback. So I should have modeled it. I just didn't. Maybe I was nervous because the cameras were on me. I don't know. But I'm hoping you can just notice how explicitly this rule is taught. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about are our classroom rules. Will you say classroom rules? Classroom rules. We have 3. Congratulations, you're already doing the first one. I'm going to put it right here in the middle. Our first rule in our classroom, the one that's so important more than anything else, is that you follow directions the first time. And every time I do that with my finger, it means I don't have to tell you 2 times. I don't have to tell you 3 times or 5 times or 99 times. It means when I say it, you do it. So I'll start and I'm going to say follow directions, and I want you to go first time. Okay, I'll start. Follow directions, first time. Woo! Okay, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm adding another pepperoni. Because everybody did that right with me. Holy cow. Okay, so we're going to practice and see in my class who's good at following directions the first time. Here's your direction. I want you to wave at your teacher. Hi. Put your hands back. Quietly open your mouth. Close your mouth. Raise one hand in the air. Raise 2 hands in the air. Put both hands down. And I didn't even tell you to do it quietly, and you still did. That's amazing. Okay, let's see if you can do something harder. Without talking, stand up. Ashlyn's standing up. Good. JD's standing up. Trevor. Hallie standing up. Tate. Gabe. Without talking, sit down. Brooklyn went right back to power position. I didn't even tell her to. That was perfect. Wyatt, were you in power position too? Love it. And Claire? Okay. Great, following directions. Okay, so now that we've taught kids to follow directions the first time and we've practiced that, we're ready for the second rule, which is raise your hand to speak. So my question then is, if your kids knew how to raise their hand in order to solicit for attention, what noise would that help reduce or prevent? Here are some ideas I had. It would mean that kids were capable of listening to instruction. It would mean that they could enter and exit the classroom quietly. And as soon as they go quietly, they're probably going to go more quickly. It would mean that they could take out materials quietly and put materials away quietly. It would mean that they could move within or without the classroom, and they could do so without getting involved in conversational chatter. So this is a really important rule around noise in the classroom and preventing noise in the classroom from becoming out of control. So in this video, I'm hoping you can just look at same group of kids, me training them to raise their hand to speak, And I'm hoping you can just think about, why would you want to have students practice with easy questions first? Why would that be important to do in the training phase? And guess what? I have good news. Are you ready? This time I didn't skip the modeling of the behavior. I remembered all 5 steps in tempo. Isn't that fabulous? 5 points for me. But why would you want to have students practice with easy questions? Will you watch for that? The second rule in our class, I want you to look right here. It says, raise your hand to speak. Will you say it with me? Raise your hand to speak. That means if you have something to say, that you don't call it out and say, Miss Smith, I want to tell you something. If you have something to say, you go like this and raise your hand, but watch my mouth. Your mouth stays totally closed. Sometimes I might call on you. I might say, oh, Alexa, what would you like to say? But sometimes you might see my hands go like this. And that means even if your hand is raised, put it down. Do you see that? So I want to practice this and see who in my class is good at raising their hand to say something. You have to start with your hands down. Perfect. Raise your hand if you can tell me your favorite color. Let's see, I'm watching for quiet hands. What's your favorite color, Hallie? Purple. Eliza?
Pink.
Pink.
Blue.
Brooklyn says blue. Alexa?
Turquoise.
Turquoise. Gabe?
Well, my number 1 favorite is black.
Black. Jacob? Turquoise. Good. Put your hands down. Good, following that direction. Now, let me tell you one more thing before we do the next one. When I say raise your hand quietly, it doesn't mean you go like this. Because that wasn't actually quiet. Give me a thumbs up if you heard what I did when I went. Could you still hear it? Yeah, put your hands back. When I ask you this question, I want to see if everybody can raise their hand completely quietly like this. Okay, you have to start with hands down. Raise your hand if you can tell me what your mom's name is. Look at all those quiet hands. Claire?
Amanda.
Amanda. Trevor?
Jackie.
Jackie. Tessa?
Andrea.
Andrea. Danny?
Lisa.
Lisa. And one more, maybe 2 more. Miriam? Tara-Lee. Last one, Todd. Stephanie. And you already went back to power position. I love it. I love it. Super job, guys. Hands are down. Okay, so the question was, why would you want to have kids practice with easy questions in the training phase? And of course, the answer is because it's a practice, right? The skill acquisition we're working on right now is raising your hand to speak. I'm not actually worried about academic content yet, so that's why I want to focus on easy questions that everybody can answer. I think the questions that I usually do most commonly are, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite animal? And tell me your mom or your dad's name, right? Pick something like that. Okay, back to the rules. Let's assume now that kids are good at following directions, or at least that they've been trained to, that they've been taught how to raise their hand if they have something to say. Then the third rule that we probably want to teach kids is to take care of property. And this is not something that I used to formally have on my rules poster because I felt like it was important to train it, but I just didn't have a visual prompt to remind and reinforce that, yeah, we take care of property in this classroom. The reason that I've added it as a formal rule, not only in this session, but also on my rules posters, because as an instructional coach, I've been in way too many classrooms where I saw way too much property destruction, not to make this a formal rule and to make sure it's explicitly taught so that students have no misunderstanding about what it means to take care of property. So let's just think for a second. If kids are good at taking care of property, what does that help them maintain? Of course, pause this, jot down your own ideas as you want, but here's some I thought of. If kids are good at taking care of property, they're not chewing on pencils or breaking pencils. They're not shredding their name tags or peeling off name tags. They're not tearing folders or bending folders. They're not scribbling on the back of their whiteboards or coloring on them with crayon or something. If kids are good at taking care of property, they're good at taking care of their small desk items and, putting the lid back on the glue stick, putting crayons back in the crayon box. They're good at handling math manipulatives and keeping those together in the little math box. They're good at managing papers and worksheets, putting them where they're supposed to go, not shredding or tearing or crumpling or throwing them. And they're good at taking care of textbooks or class books, right? Making sure that those pages aren't folded or torn or spilled on, spit on, all things I've seen. So if kids are good at taking care of property, another way of saying that is that all personal classroom and school property can then be attended to, right? We're creating that umbrella expectation that you take care of personal classroom and school property. So in this video, I'm hoping you can think about, why would you as the teacher want to start with the materials that are on top of students' desks? In terms of training kids to take care of property, why start with the materials on top of students' desks? The next thing we're going to talk about is some of what you have on your desk and in your desk. Now, don't get in your desk yet. I just want to talk to you about your name tag. By the way, I can't believe you're still sitting so politely. Wow. Oh, Tessa, I didn't call on you, so your mouth is closed. Okay, thank you. You have a name tag on your desk that looks like this, and it sticks on your desk like a sticker. Here's the important thing I need to tell you about your name tag. Your job is to leave your name tag alone and not to peel at the corners or tug at the corners or try to tear it off, because some kids say, "Hey, Miss Smith, it's a sticker. I can pull it off my desk." And guess what? That's true, but then it ruins it. And guess who had to pay for these name tags? Wyatt pointed quietly, super job. Yep, I had to pay for these name tags. And if you rip yours or you tear it off, do you think you get another one? The answer is no. So you just get one. Your job is to take good care of it. The next thing I need to show you, can I use yours, Hallie? Is an eraser. Pick up for me if you can find the eraser on your desk. And you should be able, if you look at the side, you should be able to see a little number on your eraser. Quietly point for me if you find the number on your eraser. Yep, Gabe already found it. Good, Trevor found it, and Alexa, perfect. This number matches the number that's on your name tag right after your name. So here's your name and there's your number. Point for me if you can see what your number is on your name tag. Okay, I see Finn quietly pointing, thank you. Alexa's pointing at hers. Todd is pointing at his, good, and Gabe got it, yep, perfect. That's your number when you're in first grade. That's your class number. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. The last thing I want to show you that's on top of your desk is your pencil. Now don't pick it up. I need you to listen for a second first. Some kids came into the classroom last night for back to school and they saw the little plastic thing on their desk and they said, "Miss Smith, what's this?" And I said, "Oh, that's going to be your pencil holder." Will you say pencil holder? Pencil holder. Perfect, right with me. The pencil holder is where you can put your pencil when you're not using it. But I have to tell you before you take it what you do with it. Zach, can I use yours for an example? When you take your pencil out, you have to lift it straight up. If you try to go like this and you try to twist it sideways to take it out, or sideways this way, if you try to twist it out, then it will break the plastic. So I only want you to lift your pencil up right now if you think you know how to do it, lifting it straight up. And I want you to hold it in the air. Good. Oh, I haven't called on anyone. Your mouths are closed. Perfect. Now, when you put your pencil back, it's going to be a little bit tricky. I want to see who's strong enough to quietly put it back in. Ashlyn already got it. Yes, Miriam already got it. Alexa got it. Todd got it. Tate. Woo! ever want you to put your pencil back there, you'll hear me say 3 words. Park your pencil. Will you do it? Park your pencil. Let's practice that. First, show me if you remember how to take it up. Good. And park your pencil. Kaylee did it quietly. Oh, I'll hold this till I think you're ready to follow my directions. Your directions are to do it without talking. Gabe, awesome. Did that for me first time. Let's try it again. Who can do it without talking? Lift it up. Super job following directions, dude. And quietly park your pencil. Good. I'll give it back if you do it quietly. When you park it quietly. Thank you. Super job, guys. Okay. And probably you realize that the reason you start with materials on top of students' desks is because if it's in sight, it's in mind. If they can see it, they are probably going to be distracted by it. So I'm going to eliminate temptation by just talking through what's in their immediate vision. Next, then, you would want to orient them to what's inside their desks. But in this video, what I want you to notice is that the students are oriented to what's inside their desks without yet learning how to use that. And why would that be the case? Would you just think about why would you want to show them what's inside their desks, orient them to what the materials are, but not yet train them via tempo how to use each of those items? Can I use yours, Hallie? In just a second, you're going to quietly, oh, Trevor, you're turned around this way. In just a minute, you're going to quietly pull this tub, this is called your tub, on top of your desk. Are you going to put your fingers in it and start taking things out? The answer is no. Oh, Gabe, put it back for just a minute. Put it all the way back for just a minute. And when I ask you to take it out, you're just going to pull it on top of your desk. And I want to see who does it quietly. Will you pull your tub on top of your desk? First one done. Awesome. Benjamin, ready? Good. Kaylee, ready? Tate, put yours back in and do it without talking. Your directions were to do it without talking. Okay. You have some things inside of your tub that are for you to use all year. Hold up for me quietly if you already know which one is your crayon box. Good. If you look on the bottom of your crayon box, there's a number there that matches the number on your name tag. Raise your hand if you already found the number. Or some kids are pointing to it, that's okay too. Good. Put your crayon box back in. Pull out for me. Oh, wait, hold on. I just realized when I asked you to hold your crayon box up, everybody did it quietly the first time. Which means I need to add a pepperoni. Gabe raised his hand. I love it. That's called raising your hand to speak. Gabe?
Well, you need to take cheese off of my pizza because I'm allergic to cow nuts.
You are, aren't you? Yep. And we'll talk about that if we have a pizza party, Kay. We'll talk about what to do. Okay, here's your next direction. I'll see who follows it the first time. Hold up for me if you can find what's called your glue stick. Perfect. Point for me if you can find the number on top of your glue stick. Okay, so why orient without yet training? And of course, it's because it would be information overload. That would be having the kids sit for too long to go through tempo with every single item in their, what I called tub in my classroom. So the question then is, when do you teach students how to treat those materials? Does that mean you don't train them specifically? Oh no, we absolutely want to train them specifically, but probably it makes more sense to just train them immediately before the first use. So the first time I'm going to use crayons, I'm going to teach kids how to pull out their crayon box, how to use the crayons, what we do, what we don't do with it, before we put it away and trade for our whiteboard marker and talk about how to use a whiteboard marker. So immediately before the first real use is probably when you want to train that expectation. Okay, so kids are good at following directions. They know how to raise their hand to speak. They've been taught how to take care of property. Then the fourth rule, very often recommended, is that you teach kids to show respect to others. And that means that you use kind words and that you keep your hands and feet to yourself. That's what it means to show respect to others. So think about this part then. If kids are good at showing respect to others, what does it mean they're capable of doing? Well, it prevents name calling, right? It prevents teasing and excluding. You can't play with me, because that would violate the kind rules portion of the expectation. It means that kids won't push, poke, or hit with hands. It means they won't touch, heel, or kick with feet. And by heeling, I just mean like stepping on the heels of the person in front of you, right? It means that they will avoid tattling behavior, because all of these would violate the show respect to others expectation. So a really, really important social rule to have in a classroom. So in this video, I'm going to teach the kids that this is one of our rules, and I'm hoping you can just think about, why would you only spend less than a minute introducing this very, very, very important rule? Because it is very, very, very important, but why spend less than a minute introducing it? Our last rule in our classroom is to respect others. Will you say respect others? Respect others. Which means two things. If you respect others, it means you use kind... I haven't called on anyone, so your mouths are closed. It means you use kind words, you say nice things to other people, and you keep your hands and your feet to yourself. You don't go up to Hallie and pull her hair just because it's bouncy. And you don't go up to Trevor and step on his toes because you think that would be funny. And you don't go up to Daniel and knock him in the shoulder just because you think, that would be funny. You keep your hands and feet to yourself. This one we're going to talk more about a little bit later. I just wanted to show it to you now to show it's important to respect others. Will you say respect others? Respect others. Nice job. Thank you very much. Okay. Why spend less than a minute introducing this very important rule? It's, of course, because it requires extensive time to teach well. It requires more time than just 10 or 15 or even 20 minutes on the first day of school. It requires extensive time if you really want kids to understand what it means. So the question teachers often ask then is, okay, well, so then when do you teach students how to respect each other? And my answer would be, if you really want to teach it well, you really want it to land and resonate with the kids, then you would want to teach it at some point every day for a 2-week period. Every single day, we're going to talk about this rule. And the question then teachers ask is, oh, okay, so now I have to have a 2-week friendship unit. How do you most effectively teach students to respect each other? If you are a true teacher, I think this idea will just sing to your heart. The first piece, I'm going to give you 2 ideas. The first is that you could teach students to respect each other through literature and discussion. Here are some books that I have found to be really, really effective in teaching students how to respect each other. So under the teasing category, there's 2 books, and then excluding, bullying, and pouting. And what I would do if it were me is I would just probably read 1 book a day, and I would talk about, we're going to read Chrysanthemum, and we're going to talk about teasing. And I tell kids what it means to tease, what it means not to tease, and then we talk about examples of teasing as we encounter them in the book, and talk about how not to do that in our classroom and at recess and in the hallways, etc. So you can see either on screen or in the guided notes some of the book titles that I have found to be helpful. But the idea is that you talk about the topic really explicitly and then show them an example through literature. Okay, so I said I would give you 2 ideas. The first is to use literature, a book a day, to talk about these categories. How else do you most effectively teach students to respect each other? You focus on building relationships. I think it's Maya Angelou, I can't remember now, has said that it's really hard to hate people when you get up close to them. So get close to them. And I love that idea that the more you know somebody, typically the more able you are to empathize with them, to have compassion for them, to want to be friends with them. So she and I would recommend that you focus on building relationships with your students. So here's an idea that I stole from a teacher one year. She does get to know you bags in her classrooms, and she has the kids bring 3 to 4 items. She used a paper bag. I think I would probably recommend a gallon Ziploc just because the plastic is a little bit sturdier. But then what she did is she put a label on the bag that said, "Dear parents, please help your child remember to return to school tomorrow with 3 to 4 items in this bag that tell us more about your child. Thanks." And then what the kids do is they bring their bag of items and they just set it on a counter. And throughout the 2-week period, as you have extra time, especially hopefully in that first 2 weeks of school, if this is when you do it, you pull a bag and go through the items in that bag as the child tells why this item is meaningful to them or what this item is and how it relates to their life. So I really have loved Get to Know You bags. It's a low prep, high impact way to help kids get to know each other. I will give you a word of caution that you will probably have parents who say, oh, well, she sleeps with a 4-foot giraffe every night. Is it okay if I bring that in and she shows that? My answer would be no. Thank you for asking. You're welcome just to send a picture, because you might have parents who say, can we bring in ponies and circus animals and all? No. Okay. What else should I train besides the classroom rules? And the answer is transitions, but that will be next time. Transitions are a really unique component of classroom expectations. So we will spend an entire session talking just about transitions next time. But I want to end with a question. What did you like or learn about training behavioral expectations? Was there anything that stuck out to you? And for me, it's this idea that a good rule is an umbrella rule. In other words, it covers a really, really wide range of behaviors. And if I can train kids to meet these 4 simple expectations, it takes care of so many other problems or issues that could potentially arise in a classroom. Okay, thus concludes part 1 of the Crystal Clear Classroom. I will see you next time.